5 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started. Welcome. It's always great to see a full chamber. It's good to have guests. So I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order on October 24th, 2023, and ask our city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Present.
Commissioner Henderson?
Present.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Mayor Bray?
Present. I'll ask Commissioner Smith to do the invocation, and we'll remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Father, we thank you for your grace and goodness. May your face continually shine upon us so that your ways may be known in all our communities. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Manager, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mayor, would like to add two items under municipal orders, please. One is a contract modification, number 4, with Mid-States Construction for the Robert Cherry Civic Center project, and item number 2, a contract with Sprocket for small business development programs.
Okay, great. Thank you. We got a couple of items of business. The first one, this is Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Month. So maybe before I read this proclamation, and it seems like every meeting I have at least one proclamation, and sometimes 2 or 3, but this is one that it's pretty close to home. I don't think anybody really has to drive around downtown or anywhere in the community without seeing some of the homeless people that are around, and it's a problem in America, and it's a challenge in our community. And so there's a group of us that that continue to work on that issue. It's I don't want to say it's an unsolvable problem, but it's certainly a big problem and a big challenge. But I think the fact that we recognize the challenge that we have here in the community is important. So I'm not sure who's going to receive this, but if you'll come forward. So it's a proclamation that states, whereas National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Month is an annual time to focus on the struggles that the less fortunate face in our communities, and whereas during this month we should educate ourselves on the many causes of homelessness and the unfair judgment that those in need often receive, and whereas Paducah has many organizations committed to sheltering and providing supportive services to our community members experiencing these hardships. And whereas these organizations also educate the public about the many reasons people are hungry and homeless, including the shortage of affordable housing. And whereas this is the time to support our local organizations that help the homeless look for jobs. I can't read. And medical care. Thank you. And whereas the City of Paducah recognizes that hunger and homelessness continue to be a serious problem for our city, many individuals and families in Paducah. Now, therefore, I, George P. Bray, Mayor of Paducah, Kentucky, hereby declare the month of November 2023 as National Hunger and Homelessness Awareness Month. Thank you very much. Okay. Commissioner Henderson and I just met with Louis and Sally Michelson earlier this afternoon. They're, of course, involved with Community Kitchen. Commissioner Henderson has, and Washington Street Baptist Church have the warming shelter. There's just a whole lot of people in this community that are trying to help in this area, and on behalf of the city, we thank all of you for the work that you're doing. Now I'd like to recognize an honored member of our community. Sara Bradley, would you come up? How are you? Good to see you. All right, so everybody's aware of, most people are aware, of course, of Sara and much of her success and the accomplishments that she's had here in this community, and it really got to the point where we felt the City of Paducah really needed to recognize that because of your impact on the community. So just a little background, Sara graduated from the University of Kentucky with a degree in philosophy. Psychology, okay. Sorry, I was just reading.
Psychology, philosophy.
Like I said, psychology. She went to a culinary school in Charlotte, North Carolina, and she worked in New York and Chicago in restaurants before she decided to come back, and open a restaurant in Paducah. And really, she's always had outstanding cuisine there, but she really took it to a new level when she started competing, in national and international shows. So she was first runner-up in Top Chef Kentucky in 2019, first runner-up in Top Chef World All-Stars in 2023, and she then won the Chopped All-American Showdown in 2023. And there's no telling what the next show is, but I think it's ingenious the way that you've continued to work and promote yourself, and I give you a lot of credit for that. So I'm sure she has many opportunities to do other things, but she's chose to come back to our community. So we've instituted an award here called the Mayor's Award of Excellence, and it recognizes outstanding individuals in our community, and it says presented to Sara Bradley in honor of your international achievements in culinary excellence and your positive impact on our community. 2023. All right. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay. There's your box. Okay. And I know Sarah's got to get back to the restaurant, and we understand.
Save us a seat.
Thanks to all of her family for coming. Thank you.
Hey, see you, man.
So one quick thing I wanted to mention before we get down to business, I want to make my fellow commissioners aware of this, and really the community as well. The City of Paducah has a great relationship with the state First District Highway Department. We work very closely with them. Many of the state roads run right straight through Paducah. Kentucky Avenue's a state road. The downtown business loop is a state road. And so we really have to work closely with them. But they go out of their way to work with us. And they have offered actually to take over our traffic lights. Traffic lights in the city, traffic lights in general, are expensive to maintain and upkeep, and technology's always changing. And so it's always good to evaluate really what traffic lights are being, how much they're being used. And so the state has proposed actually beginning the process of taking out 5 of our traffic lights. And these are traffic lights that all of us are used to utilizing through the years. 9th and Broadway, 13th and Broadway, 21st and Broadway, 9th and Jefferson, and 6th and Jefferson. Those would, the process would be, they would initially go to a 4-way flashing, but at some point in time, it would become a stop sign. I communicate this because when I first saw it, I thought, maybe, I wanted to check the data. And so the state provides data really based upon the amount of usage. How often people are coming through there, how often people are stopped at each stoplight, and all of the stoplights are pretty far below what their recommendation is for a stoplight. And so our plan is to proceed with, the state taking over those traffic lights and then converting to stoplights. But I wanted to communicate it to everybody and just let you, I've got the data. If any of the commissioners would like to see the data, I'm glad to share it with you. You'll have to get somebody to explain it to you like I did. But it's there. And and that's all I have on that. So
What's the timetable on that?
as soon as we give approval. So, probably take a week or 2 to start, maybe sooner, the flashing lights. And then would be a process after that.
So we have to give them the green light?
We do.
Or the red light.
Or the red light, yeah.
Or if you want to be difficult, you can give them the yellow light. Okay, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. The city clerk will read the items recommended for approval unless a commissioner would like an item removed for separate discussion. So I'll ask the city clerk to please read them.
Approve minutes for the October 10th, 2023 Board of Commissioners meeting. Receive and file documents. Personnel actions. A municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute an amendment to the agreement with Tyler Technologies related to removing certain modules, capping increases to SaaS fees, and adding access migration. A municipal order amending the FY 2023 through 2024 position and pay schedule for full-time employees of the City of Paducah, Kentucky. A municipal order adopting an amendment to the FY 2023 through 2024 job grade schedule for the employees of the City of Paducah, Kentucky. A municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute an application for a 2023 Kentucky League of Cities liability grant in the amount of $3,000 for reimbursement of fees associated with the Kentucky Association of Chiefs of Police accreditation program, accepting any grant funds awarded by KLC and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same. A municipal order authorizing the acceptance of a game time discount grant in the amount of $37,584.50, authorizing the mayor to execute a purchase agreement with Game Time in the amount of $66,942.57 for the purchase of inclusive play elements for Kyler Park Playground, and authorizing the execution of all other documents related to same.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. So we have 3 municipal orders, and the first one I'm going to let our city manager tee it up for us. Go ahead, I'll let you.
Let's let the clerk read first.
Okay.
Please.
proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Authorizing and Approving a Professional Services Agreement Between the City of Paducah and Bacon Farmer and Workman Engineering and Testing Incorporated to accept the hourly professional fee schedule for engineering services to be provided to the City of Paducah."
So moved. Second.
Mayor and Commission, as you're aware, at the end of this calendar year, our city engineer will be retiring. And in the interim, as we search for the replacement, we have determined that there is a need to have basically some assistance to stand in the gap in that transition. And we have had conversations with the BFW team that is well-known in this community, but also well-known to our team. And we have a good working relationship there and feel that this will be the best course moving forward in this transition time. And so we're just asking for approval of that, be similar to our other professional services contract on an hourly basis as needed.
And I'll just add, I mean, this won't be the last time that we talk about, maybe the contributions that our retiring city engineer has made over his career. But he's made a big impact here in the community, and transitioning to someone else is no small task. And so we've got a firm that's, very experienced with all of our projects, not to mention the flood wall, which is probably our all-time biggest project, that we have to manage and maintain at all times. And so it's good to have a professional firm, here when we need them. So that's all. Any thoughts or discussion from commissioners?
It's a logical thing to do.
Okay, call roll.
Commissioner Guest?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye.
Mark, we look forward to working with your team.
Go ahead and read the next one, and I'll let Darren tee it up.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Authorizing the Mayor to Execute a Contract with Sprocket Incorporated in the amount of $75,000 to provide small business development and job creation programs."
So moved.
Second.
Mayor and Commission, during the budget process, we have a number of community partners that we provide funding with to carry out services that we, don't do ourselves. This is an annual contract that we have. We've had a little bit of tightening up of the language, working in partnership with Sprocket, and so we just bring this forward tonight. We actually got it executed from them earlier this afternoon, and that's why it's a late addition, but we didn't want to delay getting the payments out. They are paid in quarterly installments. We'd actually will get this first one out as quick as we get this executed, if you decide to move forward with this. And so I'll answer any questions.
Just a quick note on Sprocket. The city made significant investment out there to help get Sprocket going, to help build out the space. It's been very successful, but each year we also provide additional grant to help them, and we're pleased with their progress. And of course, they're really serving that space in our community, for entrepreneurs and people who are interested in startup businesses, and they kind of serve as an incubator, for people who are thinking about starting a business, and so we want to encourage them as much as we can, and we look forward to working with them in the coming year. So I'll call roll.
Commissioner Guest?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. So we have the gift that keeps on giving, which is the Robert Cherry Civic Center. It's been a saga, and should we have? We'll have a city clerk read it first, and then Amy can explain it.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt a municipal order entitled, "A Municipal Order Adopting Contract Modification Number 4 to the Construction Contract with Mid-States Construction Incorporated for the Robert Cherry Civic Center in the amount of $12,369.08 and authorizing the mayor to execute the contract modification and all other documents related to same."
So moved.
Second.
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, and City Clerk. So we had the gas turned back on a week ago last Friday and found a gas leak. So here we are tonight. Atmos has assessed the situation and made a recommendation to the contractor, and it is to replace the entire line from the meter to the road. And so that's what this is, for the $12,000 to replace that line.
Okay?
It's very
Just, I don't know what'll turn up next, but we'll keep plodding along. We're making good progress. I see the contractors out there. Drove by there the other day, there was a crane.
Yes.
I don't see a lot of cranes in Paducah. I saw one there. And so I know there's work going on. And also, I met with the Oscar Cross Boys and Girls Club Board of Directors today at lunch, and so they were asking me where we were, and so I, kind of gave them an update, and so I think they're going to be moving forward with their project. So we're going to have to work with them, on that space that they're using
Sure.
as well,
Yeah.
So
Okay.
okay, thank you, Amy.
You're welcome.
Call roll, please.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. We have one ordinance to adopt that was read a couple of weeks ago, and I'll ask the city clerk to read it again, please.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Approving the Final Report of the Paducah Planning Commission on the Proposed Final Subdivision for Property Located at 125 Ridgeview Street, accepting the dedication of right-of-way of Ridgeview Street, Joey Way, and Petter Avenue, accepting public utility easements, authorizing the mayor to subscribe a certificate of approval on the plat, and authorizing the mayor to execute the subdivision performance and warranty surety bond agreement, and all other documents related to same." This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance approves the final report of the Paducah Planning Commission on the proposed final subdivision for the property known as Trails End Subdivision located at 125 Ridgeview Street. Further, this ordinance accepts the dedication of right-of-way of Ridgeview Street, Joey Way, and Petter Avenue, accepts all public utility easements, and authorizes the mayor to execute the subdivision performance and warranty surety bond agreement and all other documents related to same.
So moved. Second.
I wasn't here when this was read, but Melanie, you wanted to give us a quick overview?
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, City Clerk. This is a subdivision that is located behind McDonald's on Lone Oak Road, kind of behind the old Kmart building. So it's a 30-lot duplex. Well, there'll be 30 duplexes on 15 lots. So it's a for sale subdivision. It's not a rental subdivision, but it'll be a very nice addition to the housing in that area. It's right there near the new Lone Oak Middle School.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you. Any questions from anybody? Okay. Call roll, please. Thank you,
Miss-
Melanie.
Commissioner Guess?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, we have 4 discussion items tonight. The first one is a preservation opportunity assessment. That was a study that was completed by the Rhodes Heritage Group and Brent Leggs. And I believe Brent is he with us? Yep. Hey, Brent.
Hey, Mayor, Commissioners.
And Monica Rhodes is also on the call
Okay.
with us.
Hello, Monica.
Hello, Mayor.
So thank you all for being here. This has been a labor of love, getting this study out in front of the community. We are releasing it today. It is very inclusive of a lot of the community assets, and I wanted to invite both of you to give us an overview of your assessment and talk a little bit about your experience here in Paducah, if you wouldn't mind.
Thank you, Mayor, for that introduction. Again, I'm Monica Rhodes, the founder of the Rhodes Heritage Group, and I'm delighted to join the conversation today, along with my distinguished colleague, Brent Leggs. The Rhodes Heritage Group helps clients develop place-based strategies focused on inclusive design practices and historic preservation to democratize the movement, both the process and the outcomes. Before we begin our presentation this evening, I want to acknowledge the leadership and commitment of Mayor Bray, his executive team, Commissioner Henderson, Michelle, and Lindsay for helping to guide this process on behalf of the city. This team was deeply engaged throughout this entire project. In our assessment, it has become apparent that the challenges and concerns we have found within the scope of our project closely mirror the terrain that both Brent and I have encountered throughout our extensive professional journeys. To put it succinctly, Paducah is no anomaly in this case. The insights we are presenting today are not isolated occurrences, but rather representative of the broader preservation issues that echo throughout our nation. These concerns encompass matters of operational and management capabilities, the formidable hurdles in promoting preservation priorities, questions of governance, gaps in interpretation, and the critically important role of protecting these culturally significant resources. The City of Paducah is a leader here in facing these complexities. However, making the strategic investment in comprehending and addressing these multifaceted issues is critical. The city emerges as a trailblazer here and in stewarding this inclusive cultural legacy that is within the City of Paducah. So Brent and I are thrilled to unveil our discoveries and share them with you. So at this point, I will turn the conversation over to Brent, who will lead us through our methodology and propose recommendations for the path forward. Brent, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Monica. I apologize for my lighting situation. I bring greetings from a hotel in Orlando, Florida. But just to start with a broad overview, and as the mayor said, just some of our observations and perspectives. We were engaged to support the city in an assessment of preservation opportunities that would increase historic preservation activities that support creative uses, restoration of historic architecture and integrity, and the expansion of public access, interpretation, and resources in Paducah's historic African American places. As you all have read in the report, we had 5 priority sites that included Hotel Metropolitan, Stuart Nelson Park, Oscar Cross Home, Columbia Theater, and then the Southside neighborhood, specifically between Walter Jeton and Lincoln High School. Our process over the last 9 months has been extensive with multiple on-site engagements, and we were pleased to convene and facilitate multiple stakeholder meetings with a diverse set of stakeholders, including preservationists, nonprofits, property owners, elected officials, citizens, clergy, business owners, and others. And we were pleased to hear from this group on their observations, their concerns, and ambitions for this work. Next slide, please. So I just want you to look at a couple of words in the mayor's quote. It is to incorporate, It is a plan that will guide, and then the ongoing cultural landscape of Paducah. Next slide. As I just described, our purpose. Next slide. So I won't go through this again, but what I do want to highlight, and you can go to the next slide, Paducah Metropolitan is a nationally significant landmark associated to women's history, an important site listed in the Green Book, and also tells a story of entrepreneurship in arts and culture. It has a profound legacy and is worthy of preservation. Next slide. Stuart Nelson Park. In 1936, African Americans advocated for a landscape of refuge and a safe space for recreation and joy. This historic landscape, cultural landscape, has sat at the center of Paducah's historic Black celebrations for emancipation, and as you all know, is a central component of a broader development strategy for the sports complex. Next slide. Historic Columbia Theater. This vacant building in need of investment and rehabilitation is arguably one of the most significant architectural theaters in Kentucky and the United States. Next slide. The Oscar Cross home. You know, at first glance, it doesn't seem like this simple residence holds a lot of meaning and significance, but once you realize that a civic hero and legend, Mr. Oscar Cross, lived here when he founded the Oscar Cross Boys and Girls Club. Next slide. And then finally, Southside neighborhood holds important cultural assets like Burke's Chapel AME Church, arguably one of the most significant examples of religious architecture in Western Kentucky. Next slide. So I just want to highlight a few words by Commissioner Henderson. Inclusive government, informed citizenship, and the opportunity to uplift and revitalize Paducah's historic South Side. And this is what this engagement is really about. Next slide. So I just want to highlight quickly some of our preservation observations and considerations. In essence, you can consider this guiding principles for historic preservation work, community-oriented. A community-oriented process can facilitate increased historic preservation and civic leadership by a diverse constituency of community members. Any planning process should include community input by African Americans and diverse stakeholders on interpretation, recognition, and commemoration of Paducah's historic African American places. Capacity building. In our work of historic preservation, we spend a lot of time helping nonprofits and property owners enhance their capacity to steward historic places, both in the short term and long term. And we see viable opportunities for new forms of partnership that could include memorandums of agreement, co-stewardship agreements, mergers. In our experience, these collaborative models, whether short-term or long-term, can generate financial and technical resources necessary to strengthen organizational capacity and reduce management deficiencies in operations and stewardship. Next, preservation treatments and standards. In essence, we advocate for the highest standards and best practices to conserve the architectural and historic fabric of historic buildings, but also to mitigate any further erasure of the physical assets that would diminish that historical integrity of an individual building or the architectural continuity of an entire city and block, which results in the increased cost of construction or demolition and thus should be avoided. The next consideration is land use, landscape, and setting. And any viable plan should include a strategy to conserve and capitalize on existing landscape attributes. This could include assessment of the current zoning status of each individual historic site and consideration of zoning changes that support increased open space, passive parks, and cultural districts. Income generation. When appropriate, the project team should evaluate the potential use of equity investments such as Kentucky Historic Tax Credit, Paducah's Transient Room Tax Credit, and federal historic tax credits to partially fund rehabilitation costs and maximize public investment. And then the last is patience. You all know that it takes time to preserve historic places, and it can take years to bring an old building back to life, see it maintained and activated and in productive use. So we encourage the city to remain patient and to buy time for the future preservation of these historic assets. Next slide, please. So high-level recommendations, we go more in depth in the report, but our recommendation for Hotel Metropolitan, this is a beautiful example of a Black community and its allies organizing over the last 2 decades to save a house that was threatened with demolition and to organize themselves through a nonprofit. But that work is slow, and they continue to need opportunities to strengthen their operations and management capacity. So the idea is a co-stewardship agreement that takes the existing partnership between the city and the nonprofit and formalizes that and defines roles and responsibilities for each stakeholder. And the way that we have envisioned the structure is that the city has responsibility for preservation planning activities, rehabilitation of the assets, the management of cyclical maintenance, and some other duties, but it really is focused around the preservation of the architecture and the landscape, while the nonprofit will focus on public education and programming, interpretation, fundraising, and really the responsibilities of engaging the visitor and the public in the site's history. And we encourage, as a phase 1 investment, that the city would invest initially $750,000 and challenge the nonprofit to raise a 1-to-1 match and a total investment of $1.5 million. And I'm confident that that can happen within the next year. Stuart Nelson Park, the idea here is to integrate interpretation and commemoration as part of the broader development strategy for the sports complex. We encourage the project team to invest up to 5% of their development budget specifically for interpretation and commemoration. I had the good fortune of receiving updates by Jeff Cantor and the project team, and I'm really pleased with the evolution of the plans for interpretation. But we're also mindful that sufficient investment is necessary to cover the costs for both permanent and ephemeral interpretation, which can be higher than anticipated. And we would not encourage the project team to delay interpretation in later phases, but to make that investment in phase 1. The next is Columbia Theater. You all know that the condition is critical. The building is vacant. The nonprofit who organized themselves specifically to save the architecture and to be an advocacy organization, they need their capacity strengthened as the current nonprofit owner. We would encourage enhanced engagement by a broader community of established arts and preservation organizations like the Carson Center and the Market House, who will be viable collaborators and advisors in this next phase of stewardship planning. That is to look at opportunities for developing a viable program for reuse, partnership opportunities, and a financial feasibility study that will determine the potential opportunities for the reuse of this historic site. And then the last component is we encourage the city to strongly consider investing in stabilization. We know based on reports by the contractor in town, the building is fragile. It is nearly failing, and stabilization is about $1.5 million. And if the city invests 50%, it can mitigate the collapse of the facade and further deterioration of this asset. And then with the Oscar Cross House, with limited investment, we can save this building that is also in critical condition and vacant. We can support the current owners, which is the Boys and Girls Club, in identifying a capable new owner and caretaker. And also the city can support the rehabilitation and continued historic use of this asset as a residence. And we have the opportunity to serve a new family or individual who will follow in Mr. Cross's footsteps and legacy. And then lastly, on the south side, we advocate for increased placemaking and revitalization without cultural and racial displacement. In some of the convenings that we had, we heard from stakeholders to accelerate owner-occupied preservation incentives for rehabilitation and energy retrofitting, and also new strategies to increase home ownership and to have a healthier ratio from rental to home ownership. We also heard opportunities to establish a cultural district, in particular that anchors cultural assets such as Hotel Metropolitan that has spatial constraints that would have a collaborative partnership with Burke's Chapel, which is in walking distance. And it's a historic 300-seat auditorium space and, of course, historic church. But there's opportunity to integrate programmatic collaboration that supplements opportunities that would happen at the hotel. Next slide. So I think this might be our last slide. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, I just want to conclude by saying this was an initial opportunities assessment. It was an opportunity for us to observe pathways for the city to increase its historic preservation activities, but also for us to engage with the property owners and stakeholders, providing limited consultation and recommendations. This is by no way an exhaustive report, but as you read the full assessment, you'll get a sense of some of the short-term recommendations that we think will have strategic impact. So we're open for questions and discussion.
Great, thanks, thanks Brent, thanks Monica. I think, I'm not sure if...
Lindsay, I think you're on mute.
There we go. Can you hear us now?
Can you hear us?
Great.
We can.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I was just saying that all the commissioners have had a chance, have received it. It's a pretty in-depth report. I think it's going to take us a while to completely digest everything, but I'm sure we'll have an opportunity for future conversations. I know that you mentioned Hotel Metropolitan. They have an opportunity for apparently a grant coming up that we hope to help them with. But I wanted to open it up from the floor for any of the commissioners if they had any questions or comments about Brent and Monica's presentation.
Only comment is thank you for the report. I read it, and it's very thorough and has some great suggestions. Thank you.
I ditto what Commissioner Smith has said.
we do appreciate the time and the energy that you've placed into this report. We appreciate the recommendations. I guess the question, we'll all have to answer at some point, and that is, unless we have all the money to to follow through on the recommendations, how will we begin to determine what gets the attention?
Well, I don't think there's any. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Brent.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that's the hard work that comes next, is to prioritize how to direct limited investment. And when we were first engaged in this work, the top priority asset was Hotel Metropolitan. It is important in the UNESCO Creative Cities designation. It is one of the largest heritage tourist sites currently available in Paducah, and it's barely even tapped its real potential. And so we would strongly encourage the commission, if you had to prioritize resources, Hotel Metropolitan is where you would start.
I think there are a lot of different approaches we can take. You know, Hotel Metropolitan has gotten a grant from you all. You have the other opportunity for in November. I think they're going for one, and I think we just need to be looking for the ways that we can, you know, spread and do all what we can for everyone in some way. Everyone needed something a little bit different. You know, for example, Stuart Nelson Park, that's going to be a different pot of money, really pulling from for the Sportsplex, that would help fund that. So there are some new things on here. I think the Oscar Cross Home was a new one for us really to be considering. Columbia Hotel Metropolitan have been on our list for quite some time. And then the South Side, we've already been doing quite a bit and looking for ways to do more. I think that there are opportunities for us to look across all funding sources and across all of our own departments to figure out how we can best to try to address these 5 projects.
Sounds great.
I think the value in this, I think there's great value in this, but the value that we will get out of this will come over time. I think it's a roadmap for us to think about our investment and our preservation efforts in different areas. And so I think I agree with you, Commissioner Wilson. I mean, we are going to have to, consider where our investments are and when we can make them. So, because we can't do everything all at once. So we have to partial it out. And, but I see great value in this as a roadmap. And like you say, we're already started on a lot of on all of this. Really, the Oscar Cross Home is really the only thing that's really completely new.
That may be, I think at one point, Brent, you also talked about that being the possibility for a private developer that could come in and help us with that.
Yeah, I mean, of course, a private developer, and if the Girls and Boys Club wanted to donate the property to a small-scale developer that understood the significance of the site, that was preserving the historic fabric, and that would protect the home, I mean, I think it could work in a private ownership model. But as we discussed and what was laid out in the report is to find a capable property owner that has a social impact mission. So it's likely to be nonprofit that can be a steward of this historic site. And I hope that's the message that you heard, is that we want the city to help co-steward resources. And what we've seen nationally is oftentimes it is the small nonprofits who have the long-term stewardship responsibility. And so the idea is, how can we lessen that long-term stewardship burden and create pathways through a public and private partnership? I know Monica and I would be more than happy to help you think through how to structure some of these deals and organize your investment over time.
I think it's important that we not make this to something that we're going to put on the shelf, which we've been, that's something that we're not going to do, that we're going to continue. Some that, as you said, we've already started some of the work on a lot of these organizations, and we need to continue that and finish it. Some of them have more priority because of the condition that they're in.
Yeah, I would just encourage the city that there are reputational risks in making substantial investment in some activities and not making equitable investment in the preservation of your historic assets. And for an economy like Paducah, historic preservation is central to retaining your civic identity, to attracting folks from out of town, and you can actually grow the local preservation economy through these kinds of targeted investments. So I understand the hesitation to verbally commit, but I challenge the city to think strategically and creatively how you can finance these projects.
I don't necessarily think there's hesitation. I think there's just concern on work and how we can do it. What are our next steps? I think we're all on board that, we've had this study underway. Thank you all for the work that you did on it. It's been a long journey, but I think we knew we needed to do it. It's been identified as a priority for us now 2 years about how to determine how we can save our historic buildings that we needed to save as a community. It would be a shame for us to lose them.
And I don't think we would take all this time and energy and put into this to run away from it either.
Absolutely. So, I think that our commitment's there. It's determining our next steps.
Well, that is great. And as the mayor knows, there is a viable next step. And if the city can direct $750,000 so that the mayor and Hotel Metropolitan can demonstrate a public and private phase one partnership, I believe that they will be successful in their fundraising ask and their to a national philanthropic partner, potential partner. And if the hotel had $1.5 million that allowed them to hire their first paid executive director to grow their operational and management capacity, for funding to advance preservation planning activities as well as the repair of that historic building, and to have funding to develop creative and viable public programming and interpretation, it could be transformational for the hotel, and the opportunity is before you now. So I strongly encourage you, as you're prioritizing your investments, to strongly consider a one-to-one match for this funding opportunity.
And that, just quickly, that Ford Foundation grant, if it were to be awarded, would be awarded over 5 years? Is that?
Yep, Mayor, this would be Mellon Foundation through their Humanities in Place program. It would be over a period of 3 years.
Okay.
So could
That's the maximum term for them.
if we were to do support for that, could it be also over multiple years?
Say that again?
If you're asking for that support of that, and honestly, that's the first time I've heard of some of this for Hotel Metropolitan, could that be over multiple years as well?
That's correct. So the foundation will, let's say if they award 750, they'd likely pay out 250,000 annually for a period of 3 years, and the city would be making a similar one-to-one match.
That's really not in here. Is that in
No,
your report?
that opportunity has emerged in the last 3 weeks, I guess, something, or at least I became aware of it in the last 30 days, we'll say.
It's recent. Yep.
I didn't know if they asked.
Okay. Any other thoughts, Mr. Guest?
Appreciate your work.
So Brent, thank you very much, and Monica, for all of your efforts. Monica, are you in the continental United States currently?
Mayor, I am.
Okay, well, that's
back.
good.
No longer in Italy. I am now in Boston.
Okay, well, very good. So, Brent, as we told you before, we're proud to have you as a Paducah native. We thank you for your efforts to help us, with this, with this analysis and study. And I assure you, I think you have a committed commission here that's going to work hard to do as much as we possibly can, to preserve our assets in the community based upon your recommendations.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Commissioners. Look forward to continuing our engagement and excited about what comes next.
Okie dokie. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
Okay, next discussion item, we have 4 discussion items. The next, we're going to ask Director Chris Yarber to come out and talk about sanitation rates. Now, I'm just going to set the stage for this discussion a little bit. City Manager and I have been in discussions with Chris and his team for some time, and I'm going to just tee this up a little bit. The city has not had an increase in our sanitation rates since 2009. And so we've fallen behind in terms of the revenues that are generating versus the expenses that are being expended. So we've charged Chris take a look at where we are. So we're not going to make any decisions tonight, but we're going to tee it up so we can all discuss it. And so thanks for being here, Chris.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, City Clerk. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you teeing it up because this type of presentation is never fun. We know the economic environment, and I understand what each dollar means to each person living day to day. And what we do, I guess, as you mentioned, on the bright side, we went 9 years without an increase. I remember being involved in the last increase, and I was somewhat new to the admin of Public Works. I'd actually went over as a facility maintenance supervisor. And there was a somewhat new director. I think he had called me over and realized I'd been in finance, and he asked let's work through the rate. And I think he gave me like a week to come up with a rate. So it was nerve-wracking, but more so now because being older and actually understanding public works in the business world and money. We'll warn you, I'll make this quick. It's not a long presentation, but it's numbers. And that's what gives us the information to know what we need to do as far as crews and tonnage and tip and fee and things like that. So you'll hear those terms. And I will try to go through it quickly. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to stop me and ask. If there's some number that I didn't mention that you're wondering about, because there's so many numbers that are living in my head, and but we'll get through it. All right, so here we go. I control it, don't I? Okay.
Should be able to hit enter or the keys on there. Yeah, that'll do good.
Oh, it's delayed.
It's delayed, yeah.
This is just to give you a picture of what the Public Works solid waste division actually looks like. If you notice in the top corner, it says 26, but you'll see on the next slide, that's 26 actual people, but there's actually less in that division because some of these people are actually part of more than one division of Public Works, so they get charged appropriately for that. You see here we have a total of 20 actually labor positions, truck drivers. Currently we are We have 16 of those filled. You see the blank vacants. We're in the process of filling those now, and that's just to meet current demand of what we do and what we would like to see in the future for solid waste. With that said, I just want to show a little history of the staffing. And I went back to 2009 since we all now know that the rates haven't been increased since 2009. And back then, the staffing positions for solid waste was 27. And then you can see as we go most current back, we've maintained a couple of positions lower on average than what we had back in 2009. So the choice of equipment is allowing for less manpower, but then the expansion of services, it didn't come down as much as it should based on what we do now.
And Chris, these 3 open positions are part of the 27? Is that?
Let me go back.
20?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Are the 3 open part of the
Okay, that's
26?
Yes, yes. Yes, those are bodies or
Yeah.
positions available.
Okay.
Okay. And the reason I want to pause here is just to bring some attention to the City of Paducah recycling. As you know, over the past few years, the city initially had started a curbside recycling. During that time, we do have a drop-off center at the transfer station that we're under contract with to dispose of our recyclables properly and our trash. And since that time, I just don't think our recycling program has taken off like I would expect, especially from the initial survey we did. We had anticipated that there would be around 6,500 customers citywide once we did the survey of who would be interested in recycling. Once we put it into effect, as you can see here, the numbers just didn't reach that. And actually, that's the wrong slide. Well, 1 second, please.
It's 2 slides in. There we go.
Thank you. As you can see, in 2018, we had 753 customers, and those customers had a total of 776 cans. Of course, some residents have more than one recycling bin. And as you go from 2018 to the most current information, 2023, we haven't even doubled our initial numbers at 1,329 households or customers with recycling, and those customers have a total of 1,439 cans. So we need to do something to increase our recyclables and increase participation. And I think when it comes to recyclables, most people know that there's not much money in it. You're probably not going to make any money. In fact, in most cases, you might lose a little money. But it's probably the right thing to do for our environment and for our grandkids and their kids. So it's just something to put on your mind that we need to come up with a way to increase recycling. And not, when I say increase recycling, I mean true participation. People putting the right stuff in the right container and making sure that it's recyclable goods, so the efficiency is where we want it to be and the costs are where we want it to be for these goods. I apologize for that. This is a little bit delayed. With that said, this is just an idea of the current, I know it's a lot of numbers, but you have a copy of this and I want you to understand. In the far right corner here, since 2004, we've tracked the total tonnage that the city has disposed of. It's broken down in each column by residential trash, recyclables at the drop-off center, recyclables that we pick up curbside, commercial trash, which includes dumpsters, customers, and then bulk brush. Bulk brush, of course, they're the individuals that pick up most of the brush in the yards. And the reason there's a disposal fee for bulk brush because the brush actually goes to the compost yard, but they also pick the large items up, the couches, the tables, and things like that. So that's what's disposed of here. And as you can see, once we start tracking the recyclables, our tonnage for recyclables are just extremely low. We get more at the drop-off center than we do pick up curbside. And that's the idea of increasing curbside recycling, is that increasing the volume will make it worthwhile. It'll make it more advantageous to the city and to the citizens.
Curious, why is commercial tonnage down? Am I looking at this right?
Okay, the commercial I'm sorry, this is an incomplete year. That's the year we're in now.
Oh, but I
fiscal year.
mean, it's gone from 22,000 to like
Yeah.
17,000.
Yes, it's down. That's a good
That's the
thing.
big change, really, out of these, a big part of the change from these numbers.
And the only problem with this, as hopefully with people that have the mentality of let's recycle, let's go further than that. Let's begin at the beginning. Reuse, recycle, and if the manufacturers would cut down on the packaging and things like that, then we reuse things or recycle what we're not using, then it makes a big difference. So.
We're going to talk about this, but I think one of the things that we could have done differently was we could have not charged for recycling, or we could have combined it, that's one of our options we could have done. Also, we could have perhaps done a better job of promoting it. There's all kinds of theories, but we are here today, to talk about how we can, remedy that.
Yeah.
I remember we promoted it a lot when we first started with it, and don't you have several trucks wrapped?
Yeah.
That drive around all over the city promoting it. I think it's just that extra fee. For some reason, people just aren't going to pay it.
I think some of it too is people don't have room for another can.
Yeah. Now, and let me also explain something. This is very complex, and you all know that the solid waste industry is a huge industry. And when we ask the citizens to do something, such as removing the trash out of the alley, or you have to push a brush curbside, or all recyclable will only be collected curbside, it's not that we choose a household, we say we want to upset that person and tell them to do something they hadn't done before. It's to make it more efficient so that we can either incrementally keep the cost down year after year, or go these long periods of times without increasing the cost, whichever you choose. I prefer, and you'll see with the recommendation later, I prefer that we do it with like a CPI over time, and adjust it once we get it correct, adjust it that way so your bill goes up just a little bit every year instead of waiting so many years and then it jumping whatever we need to do to cover the expenses. So it's just an idea of everything we request to be done is to make it more efficient so we can keep the costs down. And you can imagine when you're making it more efficient, the biggest cost, fuel, wear and tear on the trucks, the equipment itself, we're just trying to minimize that. And this is just an idea of the cost per ton by year. And I apologize for this. I didn't label this correctly, but this is, of course, the fiscal year, and this is the current fiscal year we're in now. The cost for us to dispose of trash currently is $50.40 per ton. The cost currently for us to dispose of recyclables is currently $57.71 per ton. Now, this contract actually, that we're under here, actually ends in 2026. In that year, it will be rebid. And I anticipate and hope that we can do better. And not that this is bad at the time, this is where we ended and where we landed. So when you think about the tonnage that you see was going down, the cost may not necessarily go down because the rate per ton is going up. And that's the one I went to before. Okay, and this is where we get into the real numbers of things. This is just a graph that shows the revenue for solid waste and the expenditures for solid waste, 2021 to current, and I always throw 2009 in there since that's the last time we actually raised rates. And as you can see, based on these numbers here for each year going across, in fiscal year 2009, we had a retained earnings after, and let me explain this, after we don't book depreciation and the capital that we spend for equipments. We do one or the other, and we do depreciation. So this number is after depreciation or capital expenditures have been added back in, so that the numbers are true. We just don't want to double count it if we do both. So in 2009, we raised the rates. We were here. 2021, that's when we started the backslide again. We went so long without a rate increase that, as you can see, we had a loss in solid waste of $424,000. And there's a reason why solid waste is able to sustain that. For one, cash flow and a small reserve. But if we don't act within the next couple of months, over the years, our reserve, the next couple of years, the reserve will be eaten away. And also, just wanted to point out, currently, for the fiscal year 24, we are budgeted 1.2 million in the red. But I just want to show you some costs that associate with that. This slide here, and I warned you that it was just a bunch of numbers and slides. I apologize. These are groups that we use for accounting for a certain type of expenditures, personal services that includes your manpower, their benefits, retirement and things like that. And you can see over the course of 2 years since 2022, from 2022 to 23 to 24, these categories of cost increased $1.2 million. Now, to drill into these categories so we can see some of the accounts that specific expenditures. Retirement alone from 22 to 23, it increased 240% for the solid waste division. Nothing that the city did. It's John Perkins, you all understand. You've heard that spiel before, I'm sure. I don't want to get into that because that's not my area of expertise. And then the landfill expenditures, you can see, and then fleet charges. These are just 3 line items in those numbers that these 3 line items alone over the course of 2 years increased by almost $600,000. And we went back, this is just to show the rate history for solid waste. I went back to the year I was born, and no, it's a joke. 1990 rates were 1075, 2002, 6, 7, and then this says 2008. That is actually fiscal year 2009. This is just the date that it was passed. And this is where we are now, 1650. I know we always want to look around and see what everyone else is doing. In these situations, it definitely makes you feel better if you're still within the mix. Currently, we're at 1650. Owensboro is at 18. Madisonville is at 2375. Bowling Green's at 24. In the surrounding areas, we have employees. They offer to bring in what they pay currently so we can get a real live cost for what's going on in the surrounding areas. Anywhere from Mayfield to Murray, Callaway, these are the rates we're coming across right outside the city limits. Anywhere from 16, 17, 25, 21, and we have some that are right outside the city limits that are paying 40 per month for their solid waste. This is just my reminder. Same slide. With that said, one thing, and this is for discussion, this is what the city solid waste residential bill needs to look like to make up for the difference that we're missing out on. And this is just an example. Currently, a household with one rollout pays $16.50. It should really be around $24.50. And one thing I did was calculated how the rates would just take care of the deficit that we have now maybe a CPI to keep up with it, so we're not changing it every so many years only. But if you do the calculation and start here back in 2009 and do the cost of living index each year, you end up close to this number. And this is just an example for commercial rollouts. They have a higher rate. And that's actually the end of the presentation. One thing I want to mention, this is the number I'm saying we need to be at, but we can get there. We don't have to get there in one time. We can do it over a matter of 2 to 3 years. And the reason I say it is because of cash flow and the small reserve that solid waste has. So if that's something you want to entertain, this is just for discussion to get feedback. So maybe we can come up with what you all would like to see for the implementation of something like this.
Just a comment is that, clearly you're running a tight ship, which is great, and thank you. And I don't think that anyone, no one's going to like a rate increase. I don't think that anyone would not understand, that rates have gone up, or costs have gone up since 2009. So kudos to you for keeping it as low as you have for as long as you have.
Thank you.
People, you may not hear people thank you for that.
I understand and I appreciate it. And the good thing for me is I understand both sides, because whatever this goes to, I'm going to pay as well.
We'll pay it too. We'll pay it too.
So believe me, I'm trying to keep it as low as I can.
Well, I think the city's done, Chris has done a great job of utilizing technology to try to keep head count, as low as possible. One of the things that we all went through this last year, where we took, cans out of the alley in a particular neighborhood. We certainly heard some pushback on that, which we recognize. But again, there's a cost, to allowing our bigger, more efficient trucks into the alleys. And so I think we're trying to make good decisions, and it's evident, that to Commissioner Smith's point, that we've kept costs down. So, feedback from anybody else? Commissioner Henderson?
No, I have no feedback. This is excellent. We appreciate what you've done.
Thank you.
I guess it's time for the inevitable.
And with this, I think the way we are actually trying to regroup and utilize the equipment, with this plan, there may be some potential for bringing the recycle fee down or incorporating it in. The only thing, and this is from an operations point of view, I never want to force recycling on anyone, because then you get stuff in your recyclables that you really don't want in the recyclables.
Right.
But to make it available to everyone, to come up with a fee structure that would allow that. Currently, with the number of customers that we have, the recycled portion of residential collection is maintaining itself.
Yeah, I would like to see us be able to offer recycling, as part of the fee to encourage recycling. But that in itself will bring, to your point, we can't have people just dumping, garbage into recyclable. People have to be committed to it. So we're going to have to be a little more vigilant, I guess I'd say, in terms of, how we, and I know that's hard when you're taking on a lot, but I think there's an opportunity to increase our recycling. I've thought that from the beginning, and actually I've had input from citizens, suggest that we do need to do that. So we need to think through that as part of this.
I would like to do that, and I would like to do that as quickly as we can, get through that process and get to the process where we choose an area to start. It's not something that we could do the whole city overnight because the additional containers that we would need to get in and things like that, but it's definitely something we can plan and put in place that might be viable.
Chris, I think the next steps here, I don't want to cut off any discussion.
So, Mayor and Commission, I just wanted to brag on Chris a little bit. Like all of our leadership team, they take the challenges to heart. They don't just throw anything out there just to be throwing numbers out there or just saying we need a rate for a rate. I mean, Chris and I have had many conversations about that, and he is passionate about doing the best for this community in the most efficient and cost-effective way. And so, again, just wanted to acknowledge that, Chris. I thank you for your hard work on this. Thank you for your passion for our community. It's, it's telling in our personal conversations about that. But, it isn't something that the team has taken lightly, bringing it before. But Commissioner Henderson, to your point, there comes a time and a time to act, and it's our responsibility to bring you the data to make an informed decision on that. And so, thank you, Chris.
Mayor, I guess at this point, I would like to come back with a different solid scenarios of how we could implement the rate increase and things like that over time to get where we need to be and not hurt us and let people adjust to that and maybe get that passed before the end of the year.
Yeah, I think we need to move forward, and, I'd like to get feedback from any of the commissioners that have it, about these rates or any thoughts. I mean, a couple of things that I think are important. I'd like to increase our recycling.
Yes.
And I think that whatever we do, we need to have a process in there to peg our rates to some kind of cost of living increase or something, so that we don't saddle the next commission or two or three commissions down the road with having, this same sort of thing, because we all know prices go up over time, and I just think it's the prudent thing. So.
14 years, right, with no price increase? It's just not sustainable. No, it's not.
And I just want to say, I want to thank Darren and Lindsay. They were very supportive in this, and me calling for information and going back and forth. It takes a team, and my team at Public Works, there are a lot of people that put in and gather this because we want to bring the right information to you.
Mayor, what I would like to propose as a path forward is the commission to look this over, give it some thought, within the next week, to provide some feedback. Let us target our next regular commission meeting on the 14th to bring something forward for consideration of a first reading. And then that would allow us then a couple of meetings to enact something before the end of the year, if that is a reasonable path forward.
Sounds good to me.
That's good.
Okay, Chris, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, Chief Kyle, next discussion item is Safe Haven Baby Box.
We talked about this quite a bit last meeting.
He said, give me an update.
Okay, all right.
Tell us where it is,
Assume
right?
you're going to tell us the location.
I am, yeah. This will be brief. Sure, I have Carrie and Katie here with me. Nicole couldn't be with us tonight, but they came to support this project as we continue to move forward. So good evening, Mayor and Commission and City Manager and City Clerk. This is real simple. We're going to go with Station 5 as our location. And I give you the top picture there is a shot of the front and east side of the building. We're going to go with the east side of the building. That is the more prominent side of the building that you see there. Is close to the front, but not right in the front, because we don't want to highlight with some, because there's a big light across the street that highlights the area. But it'll be recognizable. There'll be signage there.
So what's the physical location? You say Station 5.
1714 Broadway.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
The main one on Broadway.
Beside Hardee's. Yes.
Okay, Hardee's.
Sorry, I get stuck in that. I'm
No,
there
I was
every
saying,
day. Yeah. And in the lower pictures there, you see the picture on the right is what the outside of the box will look like. And the picture on the left is what the inside will look like. So I just wanted to give you a little visual representation there of what we can expect and where it's going to go. We're excited about it and ready to get moving.
Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's it.
That is it.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, the final discussion item, and we do have an executive session tonight, so the final discussion item before executive session is an update or a discussion about the convention center and expo center, which the county has been in discussions, the fiscal court's been in discussions about what kind of improvements to make to the convention center. We all know that the roof is in need of repair, and things are moving forward on that. City Manager, you have any additional comments?
Yeah, Mayor Commission, last week, we did get a listing from the county, and they've discussed it a little bit in their meetings about some of the asks from needed replacements, opportunities, revisions at the center. Last night, you may have heard the discussion or read about the discussion with the fiscal court. As the mayor said, the roof is moving forward. But none of the other items of the 6 areas, accessibility, exterior lighting, lobby repairs, HVAC, were, I did talk about the roof, and then I forgot what the other item was, but was discussed, but no additional action was taken by the county last night, because these other items have not been put out to bid, and so not taking an action to commit transient room taxes towards that without an understanding what the true cost might be is where their discussion was last night.
Okay. So I got an email from the judge today basically asking the city if we would be agreeable to agreeing, now let me back up. So the way the transient room tax works and what we are collecting currently will allow for a bond, to purchase a bond in the, I'm going to say, $5 to $6 million range. Total expenditures. So we could, and I don't want to be exact about it because I don't know what the exact number is, and it depends on interest rates and a lot of things. But there is an amount of money out there that where we are currently with the convention center and the transient room tax, it will pay for that bond out of the transient room tax. The fiscal court has agreed that the transient room tax would be first in and would pay that bond, make the payments on that bond. The question that came to me and comes before this commission is if we were to decide that there were more improvements to make over and above what the current transient room tax would pay for in the form of a bond, would the city split the overage 50-50 with the fiscal court? So essentially, we would be partners, in that overage, is the way it was presented to me. The judge wasn't particularly saying that for sure that would happen. He just wanted us to have that discussion because that's a possibility. My response to him was, that sounded like a reasonable ask, but I do think that the convention center is, it's a shared asset, for the community. The city has a big impact on the usage of the convention center, and I wanted to make sure that we had some input on the expenditures as those decisions were made. I did bring up to the judge in an email as well as in a meeting earlier this week that, we have this annual quilt show, and in the spring, and, we erect this bubble every year for 1 week, and we have quite a bit of expense. A lot of people have quite a bit of expense in doing that. And I wanted to make sure that we thought through what the opportunities were, not only for that, but for the possibility of increased indoor sports tourism. In terms of, I think there's times when Michelle's here tonight, so we could ask her directly if we would like, but I think there's probably times when the convention center has a need for more space than what they have, with the expo and everything. So really, this is just a discussion item. We're not making any decisions. We're just kind of laying it all out on the table, as to the discussions that are going on, and look for input from any of you all about what your thoughts are about the convention center. I'll just, and then I'll be quiet and let you all talk, but convention center is one of the most important assets we have in the community. We use it all the time. It certainly took a hit during COVID, but it's come back stronger than ever with indoor sports tourism and post-COVID activities. So we want to make sure that we take care of it. We obviously have to replace the roof. And the second most important thing from my perspective is the HVAC system. One of the things I found out in a meeting with the fiscal court earlier this week, which I didn't know, didn't necessarily have a reason to know, but the Deputy Judge Doolittle was saying that the way the roof is configured right now is that it's hard to get to the roof to maintain the HVAC units. That's the way it was described to me. I'd never heard that before, but I know that, maintaining HVAC units are extremely important. A couple of times a year, I guess Commissioner Guest could weigh in on that. But we certainly need to maintain, our HVAC units. The more we maintain them, the longer their use life is going to be. So with that, I'll open it up for any questions, and Michelle's here tonight, and also the Vice Chairman of the Convention Center Board of Directors is here as well.
I think philosophically that sounds good. The devil will be in the details, what they want done. I do appreciate and trust the county's management of this, because I know it's a big deal, as well as the board of the convention center. So it's a difficult project to manage, and I appreciate the work that goes into it.
Do we anticipate that it would be more than the bond, or we'll have to just?
I don't think that's the goal. I I think that, I think the goal would be to, manage the project, as prudently as possible. But I guess, like Commissioner Smith said, the devil's in the details. And really, what do we want to take on? We need to do the roof and the HVAC. This is my perspective. So how much more do we want to do? How much more?
Has there been a list?
Well, yeah, the email that was sent over is in the back of your packet, but that's the items, in general terms, was the areas that I had talked about.
I just printed that for you too.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't print
Did
it for
you send an
everyone.
email today?
No, I apologize. I thought it was in everybody's packet. It was, we will get that out. That was the reference that we received from the Judge Executive's office last week when he originally reached out to the mayor and I just asked for
Let her look at that real quick.
an explanation of what the items had been requested. And these, again, the numbers, so I'll just, for the public, it was accessibility improvements, anticipated cost at $56,000, exterior parking lot lighting, estimated cost at $50,000, lobby repairs, estimated cost at $414,000, HVAC rooftop unit replacement, estimated cost $1.9 million, and then the west lobby addition was estimated cost of $720,000. thousand, and then you have roughly a $2 million activity that's going on for the roof replacement currently, and so that got to the estimated. The only one, the hard number is the roof replacement that has already been bid out and let, and they had pre-construction meeting last week on that.
I know the judge,
I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, I know the judge had asked, I think, for our last meeting, the Monday night before, about us having a joint meeting. We said, you know, at that time, the rest of us, I think that was when you were gone, we were certainly open to having a joint meeting.
Yeah, we had a discussion about that today, and I think the judge says that we're not really ready for that until we get a little more clarity about what the needs are. And so I think we're maybe talking about doing that sometime after the first of the year to discuss it, so.
Meanwhile, the roof project is moving on.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, they had pre-construction meeting last week on it.
You know, one of the strategies you could take, I mean, you could put all this out to bid, and then, you know, I guess, and then decide, you know, if you want to do all or part of it, you know, depending on the, I'm not sure that's the best way to go about it. You know, I think we probably need to go through a strategic discussion of what the needs really are for the convention center, and then make that decision, and then put it out to bid and let the chips fall. That would be my, you know, probably the way I would lean, but we do need to be prudent about it, so. Yeah, sure. We'll allow it.
Let me comment on what I think the county wants. I don't think we want to do projects beyond what we think the bonding capacity is from the transient room tax. What we want is an agreement if we have another COVID crisis or something else happens, that the transient room tax gets too low and we have to subsidize that. We want an agreement like we have with the city now, that if there's an overage, the city and the county will split that amount. We don't think it's going to get to that because we want to be conservative and not do more projects than what we think it'll pay for. I think the Convention Center Board meets next week, and I think we will decide what our priorities are, and I think the path forward, I don't think there's any doubt we want to do the heating and air conditioning. Been on the Convention Center Board for a long time, and we want to be proactive in replacing and fixing the heating and air conditioning. We don't want to be reactive like we were with the roof. We don't want the quilt show to go in there and it'll be 110 degrees, or all the sporting events. We just want to replace those. I think there's a lot of options we can do. The problems with getting up on the roof, I know a lot of buildings, they have outside metal stairways that go up, which would be a lot less expensive than moving. I think my opinion is it'd be less expensive than moving the air conditioners off the roof, because they'd have to reconfigure a lot of different things. So I think the path forward is a good one that will, and we want to do one bond issue. We had debate over whether to do one bond for the roof and then do another bond for the rest. I think we were split 2-2 on that, so I think we're going to go with one bond issue with that. That'll save a little bit of money and the issuance of the bonds. But anyway, the Convention Center Board will meet next week, probably decide the priorities, and we'll go from there. I think the replacing of the dome, I think that's a discussion. We don't want that to get in the way of moving forward with these projects.
Agreed.
Things that need to be done.
I agree with that.
But I think that does need to be a discussion. It doesn't need to be the dome for the quilt show. I think we need to do the dome.
That's right.
For other activities that will benefit the quilt show and be an asset as part of that. And I think the experience has been with the sporting events we've had in there that there's probably room enough to expand that. But again, we don't want to do a bond issue more than what we think the revenue is going to be. We've had some discussion about the revenue that comes in from the transient room tax. The only thing that can be used for is to pay bonds for construction at the convention center right now. So it would be, I think we need to do as much as we can. There's no need to leave money on the table.
Yeah.
Because if we build up a big surplus in there, we can't use that to pay cash for projects. We can only use that for bond money. So if we have a $6 million capacity, I'd favor somewhere around 5 or a little bit more, so we have a cushion in there. And then 3 or 4 years from now, when some of those other bonds are paid off, we'll probably have to move over to the convention center, maybe do some work that's going to need to be done over there. But again, that's what we're going to ask this, that's what the county would like the city to agree to the same agreement we have now on the bonds, that if there's an overage and there's something that happens that the transient room tax can't pay the bonds, the city will split with the county the amount over with that.
Well, we don't have any intention of taking a vote on that tonight,
Right, I
but
understand
philosophically, I think
Right.
we're aligned. I mean, that's what I'm hearing from our group.
We weren't asking for a vote tonight, but
Yeah.
we just want to make sure that
Yep.
we're all on board. And
Sure.
again, I think it's important we be proactive and not reactive like we were with the roof. There are a lot of things that got away. We talked about a roof 3 or 4 years ago, then we had COVID, and that increased prices, and there were some other things that caused estimates of prices to be too high, but again, we don't want to be reactive, we want to be proactive.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, thank you. Okay, comments from city manager?
Mayor, Commission, the only comment I have tonight is just want to take the opportunity to let the public know that this Saturday is National First Responder Recognition Day. We appreciate all of the first responders that day in and day out leave their families to go out and serve the community, and it just happens to fall on a Saturday this year, and so would encourage the public, if you have an opportunity to encounter one of the first responders in our community. When I say community, I'm not talking about just the city, I'm talking about all of McCracken County, to say thank you to them.
Great. Thank you very much, city manager. Any comments from any of the Board of Commissioners?
Just one comment, I've spoken to the various commissioners and as well as you, Mayor, about the interest. We talk about a lot of things we're trying to do and preserve buildings, those kind of things, which are all important. I do think we have an important thing that we've all have been committed to, and that is to increase housing in Paducah. And so I would really like to encourage the city management to do a request for information on with various developers and builders, to just kind of show them what we have, if we've got property, if we have opportunities, if we want to partner with them as far as sidewalks, some kind of development. I would just like to see some discussion happen on trying to attract some housing, not just onesies, twosies, but we really need quite a bit of housing. So I think we kind of need to. Yeah, absolutely. That's a good comment, Commissioner Wilson. It's just we need to be more aggressive.
So you and I have had a couple of conversations about that, and I totally agree with you. I think your comments are spot on. I think as we think about budgeting, for the next fiscal year, I think we're going to have to think about, really exactly how we want to fund some of these initiatives and really ramp up some of our efforts in this particular area, because without ramping up the efforts, there is going to be development that's going to occur. It's just likely not to occur as fast as we need it to or want it to. So,
especially if we're not, we just got to be ready for it. It's occurring now, and we're not.
Right.
I don't want us to miss the boat.
Thank you. Commissioner Anderson? Good. Okay. I'll ask the city clerk to please read the motion.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners go into closed session for discussion of matters pertaining to the following topics: the future sale or acquisition of a specific parcel of real estate as permitted by KRS 61.8101B, and proposed or pending litigation as permitted by KRS 61.8101C.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Guess? Aye. Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Smith?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye.
We be coming back.
We will be. We will be coming back, but we will not be taking any action.